Today, we're diving into the really fascinating evolution of Mel Robbins' life-changing concepts. Now, if you're already familiar with her work, you know she is an absolute powerhouse when it comes to practical advice and motivation. But what we're going to look at today is the incredible journey from her very first major breakthrough all the way to her latest revelation. We'll be tracing her path from a state of total paralysis to taking intense action and finally to discovering the surprising power of surrender.
To really grasp where this newest theory comes from, we kind of have to rewind to her absolute lowest point. Picture this. At age 41, Mel found herself staring down the barrel of an $800,000 debt. She was unemployed, completely lost, and having to watch her husband's restaurant business completely crumble. And while she was enviously watching all her friends find success after success in their own careers, she was literally struggling just to put groceries on the table. It felt like she had completely failed at life, with absolutely no hope of ever escaping that massive financial hole.
Right, so before she wrote her blockbuster hit, The Let Them Theory, which is the main focus of our explainer today, she actually had to dig herself out of that rock-bottom place. And to do it, she had to use a totally different, highly internal tool. She knew she couldn't focus on her relationships or the outside world until she fixed the battle raging inside her own mind.
Which brings us to the next phase, the internal fix, mastering thyself.
Look, when you're buried under a mountain of debt and anxiety, even the simplest tasks just feel monumental. Mel's go-to survival strategy back then became pure avoidance. She would avoid getting up by just hammering the snooze button. She'd avoid the pain with alcohol, avoid taking responsibility by blaming her husband, and she'd procrastinate looking for a job. Every single morning, anxiety just coursed through her veins. But then, she had this bizarre, but honestly brilliant idea. She remembered watching a NASA rocket launch on TV, and she noticed the exact way they counted down to blast off.
And that led her to create what she famously called the 5-second rule. It was this simple but incredibly effective countdown to literally interrupt her own overthinking. The very next morning, instead of hitting snooze, she counted backward. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and she physically forced herself to get out of bed. She launched herself like a rocket. By counting down, she didn't give her brain the chance to talk her out of it. She discovered that she could feel absolutely horrible, she could be terrified, and she could still force herself to do what she needed to do.
The really crucial takeaway here is that this countdown allowed her to conquer her own internal hesitation. Because let's face it, no one is coming to save you. You absolutely must save yourself from yourself. Waiting around to magically feel motivated? It means you're never going to do it. She used this simple 5-second countdown to push through her excuses, which eventually led her to give a TEDx talk that went massively viral. And get this, she did it even though she was having a 21-minute anxiety attack on stage. That one internal tool helped her clear her debt and build a wildly successful career.
Now, for section 2, the unsolved problem, the external battle.
But here's the thing. As it turns out, fixing yourself is really only half the equation. After years of teaching the 5-second rule, self-publishing it into a massive bestseller, and changing literally millions of lives, Mel kept asking herself this lingering question: what exactly is still in your way? Even after mastering her own motivation, she wondered why she still felt stuck. Why was she constantly drained? What was underneath all that lingering doubt and exhaustion? She had conquered her internal world, but something major was clearly still holding her back.
And then came the shocking realization. Her exhaustion wasn't coming from the inside anymore. It was coming straight from the external world. Because no matter how many times you count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it is not going to magically stop a traffic jam. It won't change an inconsiderate stranger, it definitely won't fix a micromanaging boss, and it won't silence your family's endless guilt trips and passive-aggressive comments. The 5-second rule is fantastic for internal battles, but it absolutely cannot stop the chaos of difficult people and unpredictable situations.
It's a tough pill to swallow for sure, but it is the absolute truth. You simply cannot control other people. She discovered that we waste this enormous amount of energy unknowingly tying our own happiness to managing other people. We are constantly trying to manage their behavior, their opinions, and their feelings. We live as though if we just say the right things, people will like us, or if we just step in and intervene, we can fix their lives. But you can't.
Which perfectly sets up our next section, the external solution, the let them theory.
Now look at this grand contrast here. It perfectly summarizes the evolution of her whole philosophy. The 5-second rule, that's all about self-improvement. It's about winning internal battles by taking forceful action. But the let them theory, that is entirely about relationships. It's about winning external battles, not by fighting harder, but by letting go. It's about taking a step back and totally surrendering the illusion of control.
Two incredibly simple words. Let them. These two words act as a psychological switch. When you catch yourself getting all worked up because someone isn't doing what you want, or maybe they're judging you, or they're making a huge mistake, you just say to yourself, let them. It sets you free from the opinions, the drama, and the expectations of others. It really is the ultimate boundary.
If you take a quick glance at how this plays out across her work, you'll see that stepping back and applying let them spans across absolutely every relationship dynamic you can think of. Whether you're trying to navigate adult friendships or trying to motivate other people to change, or even helping someone who is struggling, the answer is so often found in these two simple words. It applies to managing chronic comparison and beautifully even to choosing the love you deserve.
So let's break down exactly where this applies in the real world. If someone wants to think bad thoughts about you, let them. If your adult friends are naturally fading away or choosing different paths, let them. If someone you love absolutely refuses to change their bad habits despite your very best advice, let them. By letting people be exactly who they are in all these different areas, you protect your own precious time and mental energy. You basically stop trying to row their boat and you get back to steering your own.
Ultimately, this whole mindset shift stops you from self-sabotaging. Because when you constantly worry about what others are doing, you are literally giving your power away. By embracing the let them theory, you are finally allowing yourself to focus on the one and only thing you actually control in this entire universe: yourself, your dreams, your goals, and your own happiness.
Let's wrap things up with our conclusion. Your Let Me era is here. To tie this all together, so you can start applying this incredibly liberating concept today, we have to recognize how we've gone from forcing action to surrendering control. So, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. As you look at the exhausting relationships or those heavy external pressures you're facing right now, ask yourself, where in your life do you need to step back? Where are you burning up your energy trying to control the uncontrollable? Maybe, just maybe, it's time to release your grip, find your peace, and just let them. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope you take these two powerful words into your week.